some not so great information out of practice today about Vlatko Cancar. We're going to find out more here from Ryan Blackburn. But Jokic and AG, they've been out for a little bit. Jokic is out, obviously, because of personal reasons. He might play on Friday, but we do not have a confirmation. It was not at practice today. And then Aaron Gordon also still dealing with the calf injury. And so we got more to find out. But do the Denver Nuggets, have they been able to figure out a little bit of an identity without Joker in these last couple of games, especially coming off this last game versus the Memphis Grizzlies? We're going to find out all that and more here at Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. I'm with my dog, my co-star, my friend, brother in arms, brother from another mother, Ryan Blackburn, a.k.a. Ryan Chartburn. Shout out to you. Yo, this is going to be a very interesting episode of Locked On Nuggets, you all. We have some information to dive into, but before we do that, y'all, this episode today is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, y'all, let's get straight into it. So the Denver Nuggets had practice today. Michael Malone took some questions today surrounding Vlatko Cancar and his injury in the last game versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Ryan Blackburn, take it away, please.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I wasn't at practice today, but I'm listening and then watching, and just from everything that I've heard on the side as well, Michael Malone basically confirmed that this is going to be a probably a long-term injury for Vlatko Cancar. It's really unfortunate. He said he's out, quote, for the foreseeable future. They haven't decided. They haven't fully done all of the tests and all of the second opinions on this knee injury that Vlatko has sustained. But this is a really, really big blow for the Nuggets, and something that I know that the other fans are going to probably think, okay, well, Vlatko Cancar, he wasn't a part of the rotation last year. He wasn't a part of the championship rotation. What's the big deal? Why is it such a big deal? Well, it kind of stacks, man, because they've already lost Deron Holmes. They're trying to figure out what in the world they're going to do at the backup center position. It has been a roulette wheel to start the season. And Vlatko was just giving them really good minutes. And he's a smart player, understandable player, knows what he's doing out there. So this is a really tough thing for the Nuggets to potentially lose him once again.
Yeah, I think that's the frustrating thing about where it is. Vlatko had just gotten back. The team had really been relying on him at that backup 4 especially, but even playing some small ball 5 because of no Deron Holmes, and also because Zeke Naji, he just has not panned out for the Nuggets. And so they can't play Zeke Naji. Dario's in and out of the lineup. There's no Deron Holmes. And so they're like, okay, well, can we get a competent backup switch forward position that could play next to Aaron Gordon, that can operate kind of in that Jeff Green role, all this other stuff. But here we go. Vlatko Cancar, number one, I feel very sorry for him as a person. We saw him in the 2022-23 season. I think he played relatively well. He even dealt with injuries then. And then he obviously comes back. He ends up tearing his ACL last year, and then misses everything in the Olympics for Slovenia and stuff this year. Or did he play? I can't remember. Did he play? Miss everything. Can't remember.
He did play. I believe.
He was just injured, and hurt, and still kind of recovered from everything.
Yeah.
And I think even in this season, he's been in and out. He came back, still rehabbing, still developing it, and gets a really great dunk, off of a dime to the basket, and then just grabs his knee and is not able to put the same amount of weight on it as usual as he did prior to that. And it's just been really frustrating. And when you're an athlete, Ryan, and you obviously have seen this up front now, but obviously as a former player at the collegiate level and all that, when you see someone that has tried to get on the court for a while or on the field for a while, and they've been doing rehab, they've been doing all the right things, they've been showing up, they've been doing the work every day, and then you want them to be successful. You want to see them win. You want to see them contribute. And then they get to a point where they just can't do it physically and they get hurt again. It's one of the most, I think, heart-wrenching things about being an athlete is that you just really have no control sometimes over when you're going to go down.
When you are around somebody that puts their heart and soul into this thing, and is doing all the things behind the scenes that they're supposed to be doing. They're there every day rehabbing, they're every day training, doing like being supportive to the rest of the team even while they're going through stuff. That's who Vlatko is, man. That's who he's been since he got into Denver. And I believe his first year was the 2018-19 season. It might have been 2019-20. But he's been one of the longest tenured Nuggets since Jokic even got here. Like, he's been around, and it's been really unfortunate. There have been times where he has broken into the rotation and been a staple part of things.
Yeah.
But more than anything, he's just somebody that the coaching staff knows that they can trust. And he and I talked, I want to say in November during training camp, off the record. And like, he was just very happy to be back. He like more than anything, he was just excited about the opportunity and just being able to play again after it had been taken away from him this last year. And now it just looks like it's going to be a long road to recovery as well. So I just really feel for the man. And it's the harsh reality of sports is that it doesn't always go your way. You don't always get the storybook ending, and you got to value the time that you do get.
Yeah. I think what's most complexing about this is just for the Nuggets side, it's just been like a can't get right position at the backup 5 position and the backup 4 position, where they just have not been able to get consistent play from that spot. And, I really was hoping, that Vlatko is going to be a nice contributor next to Russell Westbrook, next to Julian Strawther, next to Peyton Watson. I mean, he fits in so many different ways, and it makes sense to have him on this roster because of how intelligent he is. But again, it's just really unfortunate. What do you think the Nuggets are going to do, I guess, in the meantime?
Well, so one thing I want to make clear, the Nuggets now have 13 full-time players.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that people need to understand and appreciate from this. Without Duran, without Vlatko, they only have 13 full-time guys. Trey Alexander got into the rotation in this last game. Like, maybe they play a little smaller going forward, more Peyton Watson at the 4, Michael Porter at the 4, maybe some Aaron Gordon at the 5 when he comes back. DeAndre Jordan can't play every night. I don't even know if Dario can play every night. It's one of the concerns that I had heading into the season. Like, you don't even want him to play 82 games of backup 5 because that is it's a heavy burden for anybody to play. So I think that they are probably going to have to go back to Zeke at some points. They're probably going to have to play a little bit bigger at times when they're going with Zeke and Dario at some points.
Yeah.
But more than anything, this just adds to the burden for Nikola Jokic and the rest of the starting unit, Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon, when everybody's healthy. It's going to be a lot of 36-minute nights.
Yeah, and, it just is – I mean, honestly, this might end just being Hunter Tyson. He was already getting more time as it was. And so, Hunter, look, your second year, I don't even know if you thought that you were going to end up playing this much, but that just might be, at least for now, the best option to go to give you some spacing, give you some size. He is not a great defender, good defender yet, or average defender. Not a good rebounder yet. But in terms of where they are currently, man, I mean, look, honestly, Ryan, when they got Deron Holmes, I was like, man, they got like a nice rotation, bevy of guys. And then obviously you had Vlatko Cancar still, Zeke Naji, Hunter Tyson. You could kind of see, okay, well, they're still going to have some depth there. But to lose Holmes and then now to be able to, do with this with Vlatko, it obviously is just really frustrating. I mean, I also want to pull back a little bit here. It's not like it's devastating for Vlatko, obviously, because you want him to be able to play. But for the team, I just think people this is just a moment where you're one of your rotation players on the bench that's been getting in and out of the lineup as it is. Where you're just hoping for better for him. But honestly, overall for the team, Ryan, I can't really see this making a huge difference for the team as a whole. But I don't know. Maybe I just have a different view of Vlatko.
Just in terms of rotations and the ability, like the starting lineup is still intact when everybody's out there. Like that's still the kind of group that you're going to be trusting. I think if we're talking about who is in their top 9, their expected top 9 at the beginning of the season, Vlatko wasn't a part of that. But this just makes the journey that much more difficult. So I'm hoping that Zeke, Hunter Tyson, these guys can step up and provide a little bit more consistency than they have so far. Right. Hunter's got to start shooting, man. Like, he's got to start making these shots.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing about it. Like it's all well and good to be making them in practice, but this is his time. If there is an opportunity, it's this one.
Right. Well, y'all on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit about Joker, personal reasons. He needs to tend to his business, which is perfectly fine. Being out, we're going to talk about Aaron Gordon recovering from the injury that's been kind of lingering for a little bit, but hopefully turning the corner on that very soon. And just kind of what do the Nuggets do in the meantime as they're kind of moving in a different direction with the team. We're going to talk about all that and more here at Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, as everybody knows by this moment, I love going to concerts. I love going to the theater. Shin Yoon, watching Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle. I love being at comedy shows. I love going to games. I love going to events. Ryan Blackburn has yet to accept an invite to go to an event with me in Denver. But, maybe one day he'll decide he wants to do that. We can go to an MLB game together and watch the Colorado Rockies. But, y'all, what I don't like dealing with is a hassle. And y'all, that's what makes Gametime so great. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. And Gametime Picks filtered out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. Yo, I'm really excited about the things that are currently ahead, all the events we're going to be able to tap into. And so make sure you get all in pricing. You can toggle the feature that shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at the checkout. That's huge. And you get a lowest price guaranteed, where Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So y'all, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNuggets for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNUGGETS for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it?
Gametime.
Gametime. We'll be right back for more here on Locked On Nuggets. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper, and Ryan Chartburn, a.k.a. Ryan Blackburn, a.k.a. Ryan the Man, a.k.a. Michael Malone's right-hand man. We are here talking about the Denver Nuggets, and y'all, make sure if you're listening to this on the audio side, give us a 5-star review. What else are you doing with the time? Give us a 5-star review so more and more people can hear the great content being made here at Locked On Nuggets. If you're on the YouTube side, I want to see if we can get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We do content for you every single day. So where else you gonna go? You get all three of us. You get Matt Moore. You get Ryan Blackburn. You get Swiper. All in one place at Locked On Nuggets. Hit the like, the share, and the subscribe button, y'all. So Ryan Blackburn, the Denver Nuggets have been dealing with a little, I wouldn't say like an injury riddle to start to the year. Like, it's not riddled. But they've been dealing with some things off and on, here and there. And they have had to deal with injury. And obviously Jokic, it's out for personal reasons. Are you at all concerned about kind of where things are for this team, given they haven't had AG and Jokic?
I don't know about concerned. I think I'm monitoring the situation for sure. Not only because when the team doesn't have Jokic, then they obviously look a lot worse. But more than anything, it's the added effect of different guys missing, putting stresses on different guys, trying to put them into, like, there's some benefit to it for throughout a season for sure. Like, I think that Christian Brown and Michael Porter especially have really stepped up in this moment, and I think have been very consistent, providing winning basketball for what the Nuggets have needed. I think Jamal Murray has needed this. He kind of needed a kick in the seat a little bit, just hey, we need you, man. Like that's the mentality that he has to have every single night. Is he can't be floating. He can't be disconnected from it. So the fact that Jokic and Aaron Gordon have been out over this last time, it's helped in that regard. Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson especially, like, those guys have had a little bit more responsibility on their shoulders, and I think it's benefited them with some big minutes and some big responsibilities. So, but it is something that if it goes on for too long, then you start to have some issues. Then you start to have some problems, and I hope that the Nuggets can maintain that record as high as they can go and can still stay in that top 4 if they possibly can, because it's when you dip out of that top 4, it's when you dip out of that top 6 that you really start to have some concerns.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I am. But also, y'all, like, I just want people to, they just kind of figured out like their non-Jokic game this last game versus Memphis. And I think finding an identity in running, finding an identity in defense, finding an identity in switching. And again, if you've heard me for the last several years, I just feel like that is their identity without Joker. Okay, you're not going to be able to create consistent offense. Well, okay, we know what you can do. You can generate 3-point attempts. You can generate transition points. You can get to the free throw line. Those are all easy points. And you got to play a little bit younger in some ways. I don't mean younger as in like, age-wise, but I think, college, like run, get out, go.
Yeah.
Flee, fly, Frodo, fly. I think when you talk about this team, I think that when you're in this situation, like you just have to be able to manufacture points and you got to be able to play like really gritty defense. And what I really am appreciative of is that Michael Malone has recognized that, and he's been the one to address it, and he's been the one to implement it. And they said, look, we need to run more. We need to get to the free throw line more. We're not going to be able to hit all the three-pointers in the world all the time, but what you can replicate is aggressiveness and assertiveness. You can always replicate being downhill players. You can always replicate playing tough and playing physical. That's what the solve has been. Now, they've actually been sneakily, prior to Jokic going down, I think they're 7th in three-point percentage now, or 6th. They were 2nd, I believe, until Jokic went down, which is great, especially for this team that perceived didn't have any floor spacers. And then Christian Brown, Peyton watched like, watch me. I'm going to be a great floor spacer. So I'm actually kind of really glad to see the development because Christian and Peyton have both shown their individual leaps that I think have really cemented this team. But even Julian Strawther, I haven't even felt Julian really get off. Now, he's had some games here and there. He had a 19-point game the other day. But in terms of like Julian taking that leap we saw in preseason, I still feel like he has it like in his bag to do that over the course of this regular season.
Oh, there's no doubt. And I want to bring us back to the championship season when Denver did actually win it. There was a stretch in January when Jokic was out for a few games in a row, and they played the Indiana Pacers. And there was a moment in that game where Denver starts on the defensive end, and then they get a steal, and then they get a dunk, and then they get another run out, and they get a dunk, and then they get an alley-oop, and the place was hopping. And Bruce Brown was involved, KCP was involved, Christian Brown was involved, Jamal Murray was involved. Yeah. These guys were running, and these guys were taking advantage of just some advantages that they had. Even when Joker was out there, they knew that they could lock down. They knew that they could bring that intensity, that energy, and it would absolutely translate. So in terms of championship grit, like that's something that I'm thinking about with this group. And what do they have for themselves in these moments, for their team in these moments? Can they rise above the fact that they've got some absences? Can they do different styles of basketball and be successful? Can they get dirty? Can they play a run and gun style? Can they do all of these different things and match up with these different opponents? Doesn't matter what the opponent brings. You know that you have something for it. So I do think that not having Joker, not having AG, it can be a boon. It can be something that they can absolutely be successful with. But the question, of course, is do they lose too many games in the midst of that? And they're only 1-2 without Joker. So I'm not going to sit here and say that they can't. But I do think that there's some positivity to come from it.
Yeah. And honestly, I just think that's just a part of the development. I think that you have to find ways to win without your best player. It's not going to happen consistently. But what they're not going to be is the 76ers. And this is no slight to the Sixers. They don't have any culture with their best player or without their best player. They don't have any culture. They don't have any, the grit we're talking about, the fight, the toughness, nowhere to be seen. That's just not who they are. I think the Miami Heat, they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota with no Jimmy Butler. They have an identity. They know who they are. They have something they can lean into, and I think that's the Nuggets too. The Nuggets have to be able to find ways when Jokic is playing and he's not in the game to be able to have a very clear identity and to be able to move forward and find pathways of success. And I think they've done that recently. But I think that's something like, for instance, if Jokic doesn't play Friday, Mavs. Doesn't play Saturday, Lakers. Then maybe he doesn't play the next game, and that's versus the Knicks. Those are all 3 really good teams. And so it's funny. I actually think they have better chances to be able to fight and string along performances in those games because it's required, or else you're going to get blown out and you're going to get dealt with. It's not going to look pretty. So I think finding ways to win, finding ways to really build good habits, that stuff is important.
I know you and Matt are going to talk about the Dallas game tomorrow. Joker is questionable. I believe the Aaron is going to be questionable too, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see if he actually is able to make his way back, but it seems like the progress is there. And also, like, you start to see these injuries mount up and you're like, okay, Aaron, we might need to bring you back a game or two sooner than we had initially hoped, but as long as you're 100% good to go, we don't need to wait until you're 110%. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it, but without Luka, that I think Denver can get that done. We'll see what happens with the Lakers. The Lakers have been great at home so far, and they are a beast, especially if Denver doesn't have Jokic.
Oh man, they're such a beast against these teams that don't have a winning record and are not super great teams. Great.
Don't have a big center in the middle.
Yeah, great. They're wonderful. Wow, like all time great, man. Just wonderful LA Lakers propaganda. On the other side, we're going to talk about the ESPN list that came out that is ranking NBA cores, big threes. We're going to talk about all that and more here on the other side at Locked On Nuggets. Now, we have all hit the point where we realized that it was time to make serious money changes in our life. And those can be some of the most difficult decisions to make and even also just feel impossible sometimes. But it's time for you to take control of your finances by using Chime checking account with features like no maintenance fees, fee-free overdraft up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with a direct deposit. You can learn more at chime.nba.com. And so you can. This is the thing. Like, I don't know about you, Ryan, but I have been broke before. I have absolutely been $3 in the account. A bill comes out and I'm negative 30, and then 2 hours later I'm negative 85 because I got hit with an overdraft. That's the kind of stuff that can really put you up in a bind. Chime will help you make progress with a fee-free overdraft up to $200. Your next deposit is applied to your balance, so you can get spotted on debit card purchases and cash withdrawals. No monthly fees or maintenance fees. All that stuff is available to you. So make your fall finances a little greener by working towards your financial goals with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. That's chime.com/NBA. Chime. It feels like progress. We'll be right back for more here on Locked On Nuggets. Welcome back to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiping, with his best friend, one of his best friends, one of my best friends, not one of his best friends, Ryan Blackburn. And as he was just glazing up the Los Angeles Lakers, I had to end that segment because this is not Locked On Lakers. Shout out to them. So, Ryan, you have a special ESPN big time media, Ryan Blackburn, a part of the machine, Ryan Blackburn. You have a nice little segment for us. Yeah,
so I was just perusing the old interwebs and checking on some fun content that we could talk about today. Obviously, when the Nuggets don't play for a couple days, you got to get creative in what you're bringing. You got to get creative in how you're covering the team. And we saw this interesting list come out from Tim Bontemps over at ESPN. Shout out to Tim. I've met him before. He's a nice guy. He put together on ESPN Insider.
Hold on, Ryan. You see that little plug that Ryan does like there? You know who I've met? I've met the richest man in the world. He gave me $100,000. That's what you sound like. I know you're popular, Ryan. The people know it.
Bill Gates, let me hold $1, my guy. Let me hold $1, man. No, so like Tim is like, look, he covers Philly most of the time, so we don't get along that much. But he put together a list of the top trios in the NBA and wanted to like really focus on which of these groups are not only like successful, but also young and ready to go and consistent and doing the things needed to win. And I was curious to see which trio do you think that he has in the top spot, Swipa?
Well, that's the thing. Based on how the NBA likes to talk about discourse and the big bad Boston media that they always say that everybody's after them like they're not Boston, I'm going to assume it's Boston. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I actually don't know who the third person would be in that, but I would assume it's going to be them with the duo up top.
You are right. It is Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White. Derek White's been awesome, man. Like, I no hate to him. Like, he would be somebody that every Nuggets fan would absolutely dream to have on this team, and trying to do what he does and playing off of Jokic, and just, he would be incredible in this system. And there's no doubt about it. He's not just a system player, though. He is a dynamic talent. And Boston, I think, has earned that title. They won 60 plus games last year. They're on pace to win 60 plus probably this season. So they're very good, and they do it because they have a talented top five, effectively talented top six, and kind of boil it down to trios. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. Who's number 2 on the list?
Number 2 is the OKC Thunder with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. This one I don't have a problem with either. There's no doubt in my mind that like Shai was second in the MVP race last year. Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, they didn't necessarily show up as consistently as you would want for them in the playoffs last year, but I think the expectation is that they will do so this year, and that they're going to continue to grow and be one of those powers. I will say that OKC, more than Boston, is like a strength in numbers kind of team, where they just come at you in waves with a whole bunch of talented pieces. And it doesn't have to be those top 3 on a night-to-night basis, but they still have OKC at number 2.
That's interesting. So if you actually filter out the 3-man lineup, can you take a guess? So I'm doing 100 minutes played as a trio. What do you think the number 1 trio is in the NBA? I'll give you a hint. They're in the Eastern Conference.
It's probably Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White.
No. Is Karis LeVert, Donovan Mitchell, and Evan Mobley are a plus 33.5.
Oh, that's actually, you know what? That's a way better call, because they've only lost one single solitary game this year. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, they're probably dominating the minutes on the court together. But if you filter it out, the number 1 so far that I've seen is on 150 plus minutes played. It's actually Al Horford, Drew Holiday, and Jaylen Brown, which is a bench unit lineup, which would make sense. But then the thing is, the Denver Nuggets are second on that at 195 minutes played, and they have Jokic, Murray, and Christian Brown are a plus 20 in 195 minutes played together.
It's a big 3 if I've ever seen one. That's pretty good.
So what's funny is I'm looking at this list now. So number 3, you all, is probably not too surprising. The Denver Nuggets, in terms of having the 3rd best trio as of right now. But the Denver Nuggets trio, the way Tim Bontemps lays it out, it says Murray is off to a sluggish start, and Gordon remains an elite role player, but Denver is in 3rd place on this list because of the singular talents of Jokic. It could be argued he, by himself, is enough to be even higher on this list, but until Murray in particular can return to his elite form he displayed during Denver's 2023 title run, the Nuggets will have to be satisfied with 3rd. Now, let me ask you this, Ryan Blackburn.
Yes, sir.
If Jamal Murray gets more to where he was on Tuesday, 27, 4 and 6, 10, 5, 10 of 20, 5 of 10 from the 3-point line, 5 stocks. So let's take that down to 2, hopefully.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah. If Murray is closer to that for the rest of the year, do they have the best trio in basketball?
Yes, absolutely. And that's not a slight to any of the trios above them, but Jokic is so far and away the best player in the world that I heard Chime on ESPN making the MVP case for Jason Tatum and how he deserves to be in the conversation. And I said, oh, here we go again. Like just folks trying to get onto Jokic's level, and it's just impossible. That's not something that can happen. But I honestly think that 3rd right now is a fair place for Denver's trio. It might be okay to have them even lower, but with so much of it being about Jokic and so much of it being about just who he is and what he can do to elevate everybody else, it's not a surprise to me that they're at 3rd. I honestly think that this is a pretty fair placement, and if Murray can kind of get back on track and be a little bit more consistent, they could crack that top 2 for sure.
Yeah. Oh, Hurricane T-Bag. Best trio in the NBA. Swiper, Rackburn, and HP.
About to be Rackburn. Let's go. I'm ready for payday. Here we go.
That's funny. That's funny. Every time Ryan and I do a show together, he always puts Ryan and Swiper. Even if I'm supposed to be the lead in the show, it's Ryan and Swiper. You see how he does that? Hurricane. That's crazy. That's nuts.
We gotta swap our camera placements so that you can be on the left, because most people read left to right.
Oh, okay. But who did that? Who made this graphic
Actually,
exactly?
it was
the
not
real
me.
question. Nah, I don't know. I'll just say it. The accusations have been made. But I do think that the Denver Nuggets, I'm not going to lie to you. Now, to kind of round out this conversation, Ryan, like the Denver Nuggets, like their starting five, I think people are maybe just not as aware of how freaking dominant they have been to start this year off. They have been like lights out good. And that's what Murray not even playing as well as he could. I think for a lot of people, the Murray, Brown, Porter, Jokic, Gordon minutes, they played 118 minutes together. They plus 14.9, which is even better than last year.
I'm going to do a filter really quick on cleaning the glass, which eliminates garbage time. The top lineups in the entire NBA so far, there have been, let me count, just about 15 lineups that have played 200 possessions. So boil that down, that's about 100 minutes.
Yeah.
Boston is first at plus 20.8. Denver is second at plus 18.9 in the net rating for points per 100 possessions. And that's just, I think, a really strong understanding of how like Jokic and the entire core that the Nuggets have, it helped to elevate Christian Brown. He has a specific skill set that he can provide. They kind of tailored some things a little bit to his skill set, a little bit more, shifted some things. Jokic became more of a three-point shooter. Aaron Gordon became more of a three-point shooter. And to me, like Christian has made this a non-conversation about how good Denver's lineup has been.
Wait a minute. Yeah. If he's going to play borderline Derek White. Oh, by the way, I want to be clear about this, Ryan. I'm being genuine about this. Yeah. I think the Denver Nuggets, I'm going to say that I think they've actually been the best team in the West. But the difference is that it took longer for them to find their identity to start the season off. And then Joker missed 3 games and maybe 4 now because of, personal reason. But they had a 5-game win streak in the middle of that. And they were really, their starters have been dominant. It's been figuring out the other stuff on the team. I think this 8-5 record is actually masking. Like this team is actually a lot better than not just most people realize, but I would even say I honestly think that they, overall mostly because of Joker, to be fair, or could be better than the Thunder.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with it, and the reason why is just the point differential aspect of things. Denver's messing around with clutch time way too much in these situations, and had they had a couple of games go the other direction, then we might be talking about them as a 6-7 team as opposed to an 8-5 team. So there's things that they have to do. It's not just about how dominant Jokic has been. Like he's been unbelievable, but finding some lineups that they can do to survive without him, even like when he comes back, is going to be something that I'm monitoring. Like Denver can't go back to just like losing every minute by like it's a minus 20 net. Like that's not good enough. Denver's got to find out. And if they can do that, then I agree with you, but I need to see it first.
So, basically if Holmes steps on the sideline for the Steelers in 2010, whatever that Super Bowl was when they beat, then they're not Super Bowl champions. So, he barely stepped out of bounds. Therefore, they wouldn't be Super champions. Yeah, I know. Clutch time. You got to win in the clutch, Ryan. Anyway, great show. That's my friend Ryan Blackburn. Shout out to y'all. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. This is Locked On Nuggets. These are 2 of your co-hosts, Matt and myself. We'll be back here tomorrow. We'll see you on the other side.